It's Easter weekend, and that means two things. Number one, I'm going to get to the end of this weekend and think, I probably shouldn't have eaten as many Cadbury cream eggs and Cadbury mini eggs as I did. That probably wasn't a really healthy choice. But you got to give it to those Cadbury people. They know what they're doing. They've got stuff going on over there. Those things are delicious. That's one thing I know. The second thing I know is that we're going to have a sermon about the resurrection on Sunday. It's interesting to me that when the gospel writers talk about the resurrection morning, they all say that the women or the disciples went out and saw the empty tomb and they were mostly confused. They didn't get it. They didn't know what was going on. They just didn't understand. And it took quite a while for them to actually understand the implications of what had just happened. I think in lots of ways we're similar to them. I think lots of times we could tell the story of the resurrection. I'm not going to give you anything new there. You know the details. But I think we've missed the application of it. I think we've misunderstood what the resurrection is all about. In fact, I think there are two very practical things that come out of the resurrection. Things that should be impacting our lives right now that we just don't think much about. And so I'm going to share those with you on Sunday. Two things that you can start living right away that are as a result of the resurrection. The sermon is called Resurrection Hope. In our Bible study, we are still in that time that we call the Babylonian captivity, the time when God took his people away from their homeland and allowed the Babylonians to come in and take over. And God's people end up being a very small minority in this great big kingdom of Babylon. But the interesting thing is, even though they're very tiny and have no influence at all, they have a huge influence in that community, in that kingdom. They do incredible things. That wasn't by accident. That didn't just happen. That was actually part of God's plan. In fact, God told them how to do that. How to be influential when they were just this tiny little group that had no power and no leverage to do anything. I think this portion of scripture is really interesting because, of course, you and I, as Christian people, we're in a minority situation right now. Christians in Canada are the minority. We don't have a lot of influence. Most people just, whatever. Most people don't care. So how do you influence people around you? How do you help? How do you make things better when you don't have any leverage or any way to do that, seemingly? Well, I would suggest to you that we need to do the same thing God told his people back then to do. We're going to go to the Old Testament prophets of Zechariah and Jeremiah and Isaiah, and we're going to find out what God told them to do. The lesson in Bible study is called How to Have Influence When You Have No Influence. That's at 10 o'clock. Of course, it's a long weekend, so I know lots of people are going to be away, but I have heard of visitors who are coming back home, and then who knows who else might show up at church on Sunday morning because it's Easter Sunday, right? So we're still serving lunch. So if you can you bring a little bit extra this week? Again, some of the folks who normally are here will not be here, and we will have visitors. So if you can help fill in that gap and bring just a little more food so we can invite those visitors to stay and be welcoming to them, that would be great. I am excited about these lessons as I am every week. I think the lesson about the resurrection is going to be really good, really hopeful. It's going to really help. Why not invite someone to hear that with you this week?